We might as well get started with Jane, and whoever pops in, pops in. Jane, are you a school council member?
Yeah, I'm the chair at our school.
Great. Well, we're going to talk from the basics through to the details. Oh, hello, Trustee Mama Lady. Welcome. From the basics through the details of different grade levels. And if you have questions, you can even just type straight into the chat to Zena. She can help you with anything that's link-based. And then after we're done with the slides, we'll have time to take questions.
That's good.
So I always like to start at the beginning. Purpose of school councils. A lot of people are surprisingly unaware of the purpose of school councils. The law under the Education Act, Regulation 612, governs school councils and defines us as an advisory body that improves student achievement and enhance the accountability of the education system to parents. So two arms. What we do at school council needs to revolve around that. That is why we're here. And engagement, I really do go beyond the involvement engagement. I like to separate those two things because real engagement is what happens at home, and lots of research that shows that this is what impacts student achievement. It's what parents are doing at home. Real engagement recognizes family knowledge and brings that to the table, and it moves beyond the school's parent agenda. So that kind of involvement is helpful to the school, but it isn't really engagement, and it isn't as impactful on student achievement. I'm going to be saying parent today, but I'm intending to include everybody who does the work of parenting. So guardians, caregivers, whoever, all of you are embraced in this. So we're talking specifically about how we engage parents at school council today around the mandate. We want to support student well-being and achievement. That is the primary focus. We're building home and school relationships with this by building that parent capacity, bringing community members together, developing that relationship really is the most evidential piece of engagement and achievement for kids. And the system accountability piece, we want to play that up because a lot of councils aren't doing that. And this is a really great way that is quite meaningful to a lot of parents. We have committees and consultations and areas where they can be involved in a system level. A lot of councils struggle. We see these same comments over and over again about trying to get parents to come out to their council. So a lot of the common struggle areas are people who are unaware of what school council actually does, or even that there is a school council in some schools. Some see them as a fundraising body, and that's a lot of busy work for parents. And the volunteer burnout is a great result of that sort of thing. Some councils struggle with some internal conflicts. So that's a really tough area, but it happens. Either way, the result is the same. You're not getting people involved in your school council because they just don't see you as meaningful to them. So let's not mistake participation in school council, however, for a lack of engagement. These are different, with engagement being the piece that happens at home. Just because people don't come out to your school council events does not mean they aren't engaged. Everybody wants that same thing. They want kids to succeed. I think an effective school council plans and sets out to engage their community. So we want to start with some goal setting. Let's define our vision. What are we going to work on this year? Well, we have two arms of our mandate. So whatever we do, we want to focus on achieving those pieces and matching the efforts to our school. What does our community need? So let's gather some information. The school profile, that is information your principal can share with you, talks about demographics and real estate and stuff like that. Find out who's actually in your school, not just guessing who you think. Many parents are surprised. The school improvement plan, a key area of achievement for the school, should be a place our councils are working on too. And we can survey our community directly for more information on what exactly our school needs. While we're doing that, we want to build that inclusive environments. You probably, I know Jane's been to a couple of sessions this weekend, but we want to be focusing on embracing in an anti-discriminatory way. We want to embrace the diversity of our group because our community is a wonderful source of diverse knowledge. And let's look at what we've done in the past. A lot of councils have been doing things a certain way. Is that being a task for parents, or is that being a support for parents? That really changes how people see your council and whether they want to participate. And of course, we want to think beyond just our school council meetings when we can, because the amount of parents who come out for school council are a very small piece of your total school community. The rest of those parents are a much larger part of your community, and we are elected as school council to represent them. So let's think how we can do things beyond the meeting. Engagement in the system pieces and the engagement and the achievement pieces, there are tools already that we can be using. We don't have to struggle to invent things. Let's focus on the things that are set up for us. The school improvement plan, as I was saying, every school has a SIP with 3 areas of focus: equity, well-being, and achievement. It makes a lot of sense for your school council to be looking at the goals the school has in those areas and adding to those. School councils and parents are required to be consulted in the development of the SIP. So it's a great opportunity to look at what our parents need from the parent perspective to support achievement for students. There are mandatory school committees, and these are places where parents are required to participate. So every school should have Caring and Safe Schools Committee, Staffing Committee, that is predominantly parent involvement at the elementary level, because at secondary, there are issues around the collective agreement that prevent that level of interaction. Looks more like information sharing at secondary. School Improvement Plan, Reg says parents are required to be consulted in the development of, and the school's budget, not secret. You can find your school's budget on the TDSB website. Councils also have money to do their job. The Ministry of Education provides this money through school boards, and every school gets $500 flat money for parent engagement purposes. Think about what you can do with a couple of bucks. And all school councils are provided administration funds. This is enrollment-based money. Maximum of $1,000, minimum of $300, depending on how many students you have in your school. This is money that's delivered to the school on their budget on line GL 41500. If you're not sure where that money is, or the school administrator isn't sure what money you're talking about, it's money that appears there. Doesn't hit the school budget all at once. Some of it comes a bit later in the year. But the school council decides how this money is spent. Your principal doesn't just use the money. The principal and the school council as a team decide how we use this money. An effective school council that engages families does it with accountability and transparency. Nothing you're doing here is secret. You're operating more successfully when you have bylaws. And the reg does require 3 specific bylaws. These are standards that define your organization. And really, you don't think you need bylaws until you need bylaws. So it really shouldn't be optional that you don't use bylaws. And there are workshops coming up for bylaws, coming up with the school council training sessions. The TDSB is also preparing a bylaw template that is going to be required for adoption for all school councils. And that is around those mandatory ones that the reg wants, because there's a lot of variation among school councils. So we're really trying to get everybody on that same page and working effectively. If you are a council that fundraises, this is an optional activity for school councils. I'm not a fan of fundraising because it almost always devolves into busy work that prevents you from truly engaging your families. So if you're going to fundraise, let's make sure what you're doing is furthering your mandate. Is what we're fundraising for improving student achievement? Think about the things you're doing and whether they really are impactful. There is no research that links fundraising to student achievement. So if you fundraise, there's an actual form you need to fill out. The SGFFP, I believe, is now called non-board funds plan or something to that effect. You prepare this form, submit it to your principal, and I'm going to say, add an extra step of publishing this to your school community. If you're going to ask your parents for their hard-earned money, then let them know what you're planning to do with it, which by coincidence is also a kind of a requirement. When you fundraise, you have to tell people what you're going to do with your money, and then you have to do that with the money. And if you fundraise, you have some TDSB Public Sector Accounting Board reporting to do. There's 2 sessions, reports per year that you need to fill out and submit. Communications tools, well, you have opportunity to communicate with your families because we have tools for you to do that. You have, every school council gets a TDSB email account. Your principal will activate this account, and you need this account even if you're already using a Gmail or whatever for your school council, because you have access to things through your TDSB email account that you can't use another account for. You have access to grant opportunities. You can get into things on academic workspace, things that need a TDSB login. You have access to your free Zoom account through this, and you have access to School Messenger through this. School Messenger is the broadcast tool your principal uses to send out robocalls and emails to your parent community. School councils now have access to this as well, to broadcast to your families. And because this is a broadcast only medium, I would recommend that you always include your contact information for your school council in whatever you're sending out, so parents can get back to you if they need to. You also have the ability to use the school's website. Some school councils have their own website. You don't have to have your own website, because on every school's website, there is a place for parent information and school council information. You can work with your office administrator and your principal to provide information to get posted up in there. Again, make sure your contact information is there, so when parents click on that, they can find you. Consultation is a required area, and then we're talking accountability. The reg does specify specific areas that parents are required to be consulted on, and school councils are basically required to consult with their community of parents on whatever they're considering. So please remember that you are representing your whole parent body, and to try your best to find out what they would do when you're debating a situation. So you can do that by having surveys. That's a simple, straightforward way parents can do at their own pace. You could have dedicated meetings. You could say, well, we're going to be completing the school improvement plan discussion today. So come on in and we'll have a session about that specifically. You could hold separate discussion groups about a topic. Maybe you're doing your school statement of needs. You could run a session for that. You could use your social media for some of this as well, if you're adept with that stuff. What's universal at all stages of school councils and grade levels is that 2 arms of the mandate. We are trying to create a partnership, relations with our community, our staff especially, and other parents. We want to build on that respectful relationship, to embrace the diversity of that community and seek out that parent knowledge and family knowledge to bring to those school committees and to the school council. We want to help parents understand what's going on in the system, what's going on specific to kids of that age, and remembering to bring in the people who aren't meeting goers. This is still, like I say, the largest portion of your parent population, so please don't forget about them. For today's discussion, we're going to be looking at the classic divisions: elementary, which is generally K to 6, middle, which is generally in the 6 to 8 area, and secondary 9 to 12. When we begin our journey in engagement with school council, we're talking with parents that are maybe brand new to the country, maybe brand new to the system, Even if these are parents who grew up in Canada, their experience with education won't necessarily be the same situation that we've got going on now. So these are parents that will be hungry for information about how things work. On the student achievement side of things, we're going to be looking at things like health and well-being. Math and literacy are very hot topics at this area. A lot of efforts are spent there, so we can help our families help support their kids in these areas. There are French immersion options that happen in elementary. In the accountability piece, this, like I say, understanding the system, this is kind of a key area where you would put your efforts for this elementary stage, helping parents understand and families and bringing families into the system for those school improvement planning, get them hooked on that now while they're fresh to the system and keen. Bring in those diverse voices for the committees and make sure your school statement of needs is involving as many voices as possible. So how do we help build that understanding? Orientation sessions are really helpful at this age. Welcome to Kindergarten is a common program, but any kind of orientation that welcomes parents and families into the school. Healthy eating is a great topic at this age. Virtual events like a dance party is a great community event because kids will actually participate at this age and not be too self-conscious. And I really encourage you to invite staff to these events because we're building community here and give a chance for staff and families to meet each other outside of that potentially tenser academic environment. Math and literacy events are really popular at this age. Lots to do and get those basics built in academically. You might be, your school might have a classroom initiative, or the board might be doing something new in the classrooms. So inviting staff to talk about that to your council meetings is a great piece that parents want to know about. It's never too early to start talking about anti-racism, and we can do that age appropriately. And EQAO is a key player for a lot of families and schools at this age, and not for others, but EQAO is, there's 2 tests that children write in elementary, and that is something that parents want to know about. Can we opt out? How do we opt out? How are the scores counted? So having an information session relieves a lot of that. And school improvement planning, of course, we want to get people involved in that. As we move up in the grades, the journey does get more difficult. We're talking about an age group where kids are a little more sassy. They're pushing their boundaries, they're stretching their wings, they're trying to find themselves. If you're a dedicated middle school, you have a customized environment where you can do this. If you're a K-8 school, this is an age group that really often gets lost because our energies are busy with the younger kids. So engaging families at this age becomes tougher because they kind of step back a bit. Oh, little Billy's doing pretty well and independent, and I don't need to be part of it as much. But they actually do, and you want those voices at the table because this is a challenging age group. We want to make sure that we're hearing what families need to support these kids too. In the achievement piece, we're looking at mental health and well-being becoming a player of a more significant level. Great opportunity to use STEM or STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and math, because this is a time where you can get involvement and interest at a family level that's more comfortable. There are alternative school choices, and obviously we're looking towards secondary school at this age group, so we want to provide resources for that part of the journey. We want to remember that we've got system accountability pieces to play. Our school statement of needs, that's a statement that parents prepare that says what is unique about your school, and superintendents use that document to place new administrators in your school. But at this point in the journey, parents have a little information under their belt, so they're a very valuable voice to that document as well. One thing parents might be comfortable doing more so at this age are VP candidate interviews. One of the awesome things that PIAC has done has been instrumental in arranging to have parents on this team. When a teacher applies to become a vice principal, they go through an extensive vetting process that involves an interview, and a parent sits on every interview team and interviews every candidate with the rest of that team. This is an excellent, excellent piece of engagement and a really great way for parents to have a solid voice in who becomes administrators in our schools. I've done these teams and I have seen VP candidates not go through or go through because of the parent voice on that team. So if you're interested in that opportunity, it comes up in the fall and spring. It really depends on what's happening in the pool. So keep your eyes open for that information. So engaging families at the middle school level, we want to provide things that are meaningful to that family age group. Social media, pretty significant player. Healthy living, are our kids getting enough sleep? We can still have virtual community nights, like maybe a game night, because kids will still participate, and maybe kids are even going to lead that game night. We want to make sure we're still inviting our teachers to that, because again, we want to build that relationship piece, and the engagement coming from teachers to families has research proves that that is a significant player in engagement. So we really want to encourage our teachers to participate in our outreach wherever we can. This is a sassy age for kids, so some support for parents might be nice with maybe a mindful parenting session. My Blueprint is the tool that students use to do course selection in secondary, but it is also a great tool for future planning, because you can go all the way forward past post-secondary and back to try out different pathways. Parents can build a parallel account in My Blueprint, so might be something that parents are interested in how that works as their kids move towards secondary school. We never want to miss an opportunity to talk about anti-oppression awareness and whatever issues that our community wants to work on. If it's a year that there was a student census, this is a first section of student census that the students fill out themselves starting in grade 7. So sharing the data, having the principal share the data of your school's census data is an interesting exercise for school council. We might look at our budget. That again, public knowledge on the site, but you know, it is an area of participation. In secondary, I see a little bit of panic in parents at this point. They've sort of stepped back a bit as their kids have gotten, you know, 11, 12 years old, and then they find themselves in a secondary, and it's a bit of a big, scary world that they haven't anticipated or haven't been part of in our system. So for student achievement piece, we're absolutely looking at mental health and well-being. Anxiety and depression are way up at the top of issues for youth. And this is a great age to make sure that you are supporting the stress and anxiety that your kids may have. Course selection, very key. Great idea to invite your guidance department to deliver the same course selection session they deliver to the kids to your parents, so that we understand that journey and can support our kids in their choices. EQAO at secondary is different than elementary, because these two tests, literacy and math, are graduation requirements. So there's a different understanding that these tests have here. They're all happening online this year, from what I understand. So great opportunity to have a session at any stage of your school about how EQAO is being delivered this year. And then we're supporting students after graduation from high school. What are your options? What are they doing? So we've got system accountability pieces here as usual, SIP, committees, statement of needs. This is an opportunity for community building here, especially because secondary generally brings a new bunch of people into the school, not your family groups that already know each other. It's starting again. So we want to make sure that we're building community here, and that we're asking our staff to come and build community with us. We're all working to the same goal. What kind of things can we do at secondary? Well, again, welcome to grade 9. Like in kindergarten, an orientation to high school is extremely useful. The kids get this in August in most high schools, but let's also think about having a session for parents, a tour through the school, the same kind of course information and school information that their kids are getting. So parents can help support their kids' learning. Internet safety, very big deal at this level too. We want to talk about relationships now. Kids are stretching into that now, and helping our families with that piece is a good idea for this age group. Mental health supports, like I say, great idea to bring in those pieces to support our families. Course selection, again, bring their guidance department in to do a session on my blueprint. You want to talk about youth apprenticeship programs, co-op programs, the kinds of options that your kids have really help parents understand. And post-secondary planning, well, what happens after high school? What are our options? Where are our kids headed? Human rights conversations never stop, so let's make sure we're keeping that at the top of our planning. And have something fun. Maybe this, because we can't meet together anymore right now, we can't do that fabulous humble potluck that's an amazing community builder. Maybe we can do something on social media, invite our multicultural piece in to have a recipe share or something simple like that. Get creative with your social media and your Zoom. So engagement recap, let's focus on being an effective council that's meaningful to our families, whatever the stage we're at. We want to be relevant. We want to remember that what we're doing has to match our mandate as school councils. And we want to do that by involving the diversity of our community. We want to be accountable to our community, share, communicate what you guys are doing. School councils work hard. And you should not be afraid to let people know all that hard work, what you're doing for them. You're representing them, let them know. And by sharing the information, you are reducing barriers and making them understand what you're doing and how you're trying to help all of the families and your community. The universal themes at every age, we're still building parent capacity to increase student success. We're still making sure we're sharing opportunities to participate in that system piece, bring those diverse voices into our system. They are essential to representation and better flow for a number of different areas, obviously. Customize what we're doing that suits our school, not to really make sure that we prioritize the things that our kids need at their stage of the journey. Remember to make the plan and write the plan down. It's really hard to remember if you didn't write it down. And when you write it down, share it. Like I say, let your community know what you're working on and review the plan every year, because this is not carved in stone. You might find something changes and you need to adjust your plan. Remember that the things on your plan aren't necessarily going to happen in 1 year. So we want to keep revisiting what we're doing and make sure we're tying in what we're spending our volunteer efforts on and making sure it stays relevant. Now, having said that, you might come up with a whole lot of great ideas and goals, but you can't do everything. You can't bite off more than you can chew. So let's make sure that we are prioritizing the ideas that we've had for our plan and match the goals to how many people we have to do the work. If your council is 5 people, then maybe you're going to tackle 2 things this year, and that's a realistic goal. If your council is 10 people, maybe you're going to be able to take on 3 or maybe even 4 things. If you have a ton of great ideas and the energy to do it, you could use subcommittees to break off some of that work. And this is a great opportunity to engage more families in your school council, because a subcommittee only needs to have 1 elected school council member involved, but the rest of the members of that subcommittee could be any parent from your school or community. And that gives them an opportunity to work on the things that might pique their interest specifically, and without, maybe they're not that interested in the full council piece, but maybe they're interested in that one area. This is a great way to tackle extra work. And make sure we're consulting and remembering that consult is an opportunity for engagement, and a great one, really, because we are representing our families. Let's engage them and find out what they want, and let them know what the results of a consultation are. That's a piece of accountability. Promote what you're doing. Let people know how hard you're working for them, and encourage them to bring their voice to that. Just because we've inherited a way of things that happen at school council, which is a very common situation, well, we've always done it that way, it doesn't mean you have to keep doing it that way. Let's assess what's working and what's not working, and let's assess what we're spending our hard energy on, so we don't have volunteer burnout, so that we don't have things that never get completed. If fundraising's taking up all of your time, maybe you just stop doing fundraising, or maybe you just do one, so that you can focus on engagement activities. Just because you've always had a pizza lunch doesn't mean you always have to have a pizza lunch. This is the kind of conversations councils need to have. This is one of my favorite little slides. I like to include this in every presentation. I find it kind of comforting. Along your journey as a school council, you will find yourself moving through stages. This is actually a circle, not just a linear side, because as you get through the stages, at stage 3, your parents might all graduate and you have very few left, and you're back at stage 1 again. And that's okay. This is meant to illustrate that it's all right to work where you are, and don't pressure yourselves to perform things that you just can't fit in. Be realistic, be responsible, be accountable, action the stuff that's actually something you can work on, and cut yourself some slack if you can't make it all the way to stage 3. This isn't going to happen in a year. You may spend years in one stage or another. That's all right. A bit about meetings. We're using virtual meetings now, but some of the things are consistent whether you're having an in-person meeting or virtual. To make your council a meaningful place for parents to come to, we want to attract them with a sense of purpose. Let them know what we're doing. That accountability piece is really key to the value you have. Schedule the topics that are at your meeting that are things that you've researched and found that parents want to know about. Supplying those pieces. We're going to send out in advance the agenda and any of those reports, because a lot of what turns people off of meetings is listening to somebody drone on about a report. We can read the report in advance, come to the meeting ready to discuss anything from that report, and we're not clogging our meetings up with that kind of piece. We can get down to business and really start working on the engagement discussions. So that is the same whether you're virtual or in person. If you've got somebody, if you're going to have virtual meetings that we are, make sure we're sending out the information they need to access that meeting easily. If you've got people on the phone at your meeting, make sure that you're remembering to check with them, because they can't participate in a Zoom the same exact way as somebody who's on a smart device. And a productive meeting, remind people what we're here for. Introduce yourselves, explain what the meeting's going to look like, and encourage discussion. Zoom has great breakout room capacity. You can use this to have dedicated discussions. Maybe you're having a SIP meeting, so you could have a breakout room for each of the 3 areas in the equity, achievement, well-being. Then get creative and make sure you're following up. If you have people if you're lucky enough to have parents come out to your meetings and they come back the next time, all those great things we talked about at the last meeting, we never hear about them again. Follow up. If we've decided we're going to action something, let's assign it to people, and let's tell people what happened or where in the progress that action item is. It's a piece of accountability, and it's a piece of productive councils. You don't just spin your wheels. At every age, the virtual arena has provided some great opportunities for virtual outreach. And beyond straightforward meetings, parents come out more for our meetings. We have found this because we've removed some of the barriers with the virtual format, the timing, finding someone to look after their kids. Parents' comfort level with coming into the building can be very intimidating for some people. So they can join at their own speed in the virtual arena. So let's use that opportunity to have those non-meeting events to build our community, build the relationships, bring teachers and families together, create that cross-cultural opportunity to build connections and learn about each other and break down the barriers. This also promotes your school council very successfully because they're seeing, oh, look, school council is hosting something that's really meaningful and I'm able to participate and contribute. Promotes your council, makes you look more valuable, increases the engagement in people who want to participate in your council. And obviously it helps build diversity in your group. And some school groups are very challenging to get to participate in your school council. So let's try and find ways to reach out to them. So here's some of the classic resources. PACT has lots of great school council resources, easy to access on our simple site. So by all means, Zena's going to pop in the links into the chat there for our school council's toolkit, which is a great handy piece you can download and has detailed links to things like elections, how to do meetings, what is the role of our principal, and it has a monthly checklist on the back. So you can use that to kind of follow along, keeping your planning, customize that. You can download a customizable version off of the website as well, torontopac.com, to make it your own for your school council. And there's information about consultations in there and lots of resources. If you click the resource tab, you have links to all kinds of engagement and school support resources, easy to access. Another great site is the Community Support Workers Hub, tdsbhub.ca. There's good resources in there for school councils. They have a great calendar there, which contains all kinds of opportunities. They have a searchable resource library, which is super handy for councils. Obviously, the Parent and Community Engagement Office. This is your go-to support. If you are one of those councils with internal conflict, this is a great resource for you. You can access that from the TDSB site, going through community and then how to get involved. It details about communication tools that I was talking about, conversation series. The PCEO has their own YouTube channel, so recorded webinars, council training sessions, all kinds of awesome stuff. That's probably where the sessions from this conference will be posted. And the Ministry of Education, of course, this is where you the starting point in many councils. This is the school council handbook. Now, this handbook hasn't been updated in a very long time, so grain of salt on that one, but it still contains some really valuable resources, templates, instructions, tips, very useful. And the Regulation 612 from the ministry, you can read this. It's not a long piece of work, but it's not in layman's speak because it's a regulation, but it's useful to read through it and really kind of understand where all of the rest of this stems from. There's also a great school improvement planning booklet that they have. So if your school really wants to dig into how can we focus on the SIP and bringing the voices together, lots of great information in the handbook. So to finish up, Jane, supporting families and building that partner relationship in your community is fulfilling your mandate as a school council. We want to strive to engage parents with a genuine way to support what they're doing at home, targeting our events, our efforts to our community, and making our council meaningful to them at every stage of the game. I hope that gives you some good information. And now we have time for questions, if you have any, or Trustee Mamalidi.
Thank you, Nicole. That was really good.
I'm going to unshare that. So what grade are your schools right now, Jane?
So we are in a transition phase. So we are currently SK to 7. We're converting from dual track to single track French immersion.
Oh,
yeah. So
lots of transition.
Yes, very much so. So it was a K to 5 school previously.
So you're losing the French immersion and bringing in extra grades.
We are gaining the French immersion, losing the English, and going to all the way up to 8.
Single track French?
Single track French. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So, yeah, it's been interesting. My son is actually the first year of French immersion in the school. My daughter is 5 years behind him. So we've seen a lot of transition, and he is the oldest in the school at the moment at grade 7. So next year they will add the grade 8s. And then it will be, I believe at that point, they'll be fully transitioned. And I think the JK will start with French immersion, I think next year as well.
Wow. So lots of stuff going on there.
Yes. Yes.
So you've got a bunch of layers of engagement to work through.
I do.
You can
yes.
obviously offer supports to parents, because just because your kid's in French immersion doesn't mean you speak French as parents.
Exactly. Yeah,
so that's a great place.
We get a lot about that. And that was actually a big challenge with the pandemic.
Yeah.
We lost families because they just felt overwhelmed with trying to support their kids at home with the French. And they no longer were in the classroom. So we did bring that up to the school, and the school brought in an after-school program to help with homework for some of the kids that were struggling. The only challenge was I don't think it was well known about. We did try to make sure parents knew about it. I had parents complain. We created a WhatsApp group for the parents, which we're slowly getting parents on there. So made sure they knew, like, okay, if you think your child is struggling, reach out to the teacher. We have a group available now, but I think they were concerned about too many kids showing up initially. So they tried to kind of try it out and see how it went with a smaller group. But I think it was successful. So we're hoping that they might consider doing it again this year. Even though the kids are back in person, there's still a lot of parents concerned, a lot, especially with like being home for so long, right? A lot of parents are concerned about that gap now, the knowledge gap.
Yeah, that's a big key topic. So you have opportunity to share the parent concern protocol. That's something that parents can use if they have that classroom concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
we always tell them to go to the teacher first. Our principal, luckily, is also a very warm and open person. So she's also very open to parents coming to her if they don't feel that the teachers helped them. So I feel like it's a good environment. What's happened in the last 18 months is unfortunate and has made it more challenging for everybody. But the only real challenge we have is we are an extremely small school. So that means our council is tiny. Yeah. So it's just
so you have to choose wisely what you spend your energy on in the plan, right?
Yes, I didn't actually mean to be the chair. I volunteered to be
accidental chair is a pretty common thing.
Yeah, I was the secretary, and then our chair was going to step down and talked me into switching roles with her. But she's no longer at the school. So so
if you have a very small council and a very small school, it means that you've got to do some pretty targeted outreach with your principal. And a tip for that is definitely, research shows that when teachers invite parents to these kinds of things, that the response is much stronger. Okay. So if you have your teacher rep or a teacher that maybe the principal can recommend could reach out to parents in the classroom directly, that's a great way to get parents to come in and try out counsel.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, we did see the better better numbers for meetings last year, for sure. Like being virtual helped in that regard.
Yeah.
Because normally we didn't, you know, 6 people, 8 people, that would be a lot at a council meeting pre-COVID days.
And that's not bad.
Yeah. So now
that's okay. 6 to 8 is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been on plenty councils that had 6 to 8 people on it. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can still do a lot with those people.
Yeah, that's just in attendance. That's we've only got, I think we're only going to end up, we haven't had our elections yet. They're coming up this week, but I think we're going to end up with 2 executives and maybe 1 parent representative.
Yeah, that's a fine place to start.
Yeah.
This is Felicia. So I'm
Hi, Felicia.
one of the, hello, thank you so much for letting me jump in at the end here. I was attending another session. Hello, Trustee Mamalidi or Vice Chair Mamalidi. Thank you for joining. I just wanted to say, Jean, that, you know, my children have ventured through several different schools in the TDSB, and I've also joined or I've visited many school councils. And, you know, 6 to 8, like people always, like there's parents who say that like kind of embarrassingly, they're like, oh, I only have like 6 people joining. Not at all. Like, you know, for a small school, I would say one of my children's schools was 180 students. And for us to get 6 dedicated parents who came out, you know, regularly for meetings and who really formed our nucleus of council, I would say that that was, I felt like it was incredible because you're talking about 6 dedicated people versus, you know, some other school councils that I've attended, you know, they'll have like 20 or 30 people attending, but then when it comes down to like true engagement and involvement, those people are there to listen and get information, but they're not there to you know, work on the school improvement plan or you know, talk about, you know, how can we do outreach or how can we improve, how can we work with the teachers to improve, you know, the school experience for the students at the school, or just any of the we'll call little projects, right? Like, so I would say, you know, you're doing really well. You have, you know, you have dedicated parents who and guardians who are really truly engaged, it sounds like. So I would say, you know, be proud of that.
Okay, thank you. It's hard though.
Build on that.
I do feel a lot of it falls on my shoulders. So, you know, I do have a very supportive treasurer, thank goodness. But yeah, we're only 2 people. We both have full-time jobs. Like it does become a question of, you know, I have said this in council meetings, we would love to do this, but we don't have the resources. If anyone wants to step up and volunteer, we'll go ahead with it. Otherwise, it's not happening.
That is smart.
That is a great answer. And as a former chair of a council where, you know, it was a small school again, hey, you know, I would hear from some parents, oh, you know, how come we don't do a school fun fair? You know, so-and-so school down the street does a school fun fair and it makes like tons of money. And I would say, well, that school has about 1,000 students compared to our, you know, small little school of under 200. And they therefore have a larger pool of parents and volunteers to draw from. So, you know, but I said the same thing you did. That would be great. Would you like to take that on as a project? And, you know, it was
well, and the reality is when you're dealing with only a few people, yeah, if you only have a couple of people, you're not going to take on large activities. And Jane, it sounds like you're being pretty realistic with what you guys take on. And that's important because you can't burn out the 3 people you have.
Right.
So focus on the things that are most important. And if people get on board with the way you're supporting things, then maybe they're going to be more interested in helping out and contributing. And like I say, use that tool get your principal to support with asking teachers to invite parents, that's a key player according to the research. So you can build your arsenal that way.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for that.
So if you have more questions, you can always email info@torontopiac.com, get hold of us. Looks like Trustee Mamalides got a question. Go ahead.
Not so much a question, just so we share with our audience. Please don't be shy to invite your trustee. Reach out to them, even to the community events that you might be organizing. It's great to have them involved, and it helps with engagement. It will draw other parents as well to your events, which in turn grows the engagement that you're trying to accomplish, right? So we're here to work for you. That's often forgotten, but we're here to work for our communities and our parents. So don't ever forget to reach out to us, please, because we need to be involved the best that we can in engagement to help you in growing your parent councils. That doesn't mean we want to take it over. That's not our job. It's not our role. Our role is to be there and support if we can. But ultimately, I ask this just so we're informed, so that we know what's going on within the community and we can assist wherever we actually can. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thanks. Yep, we've got lots of resources for you, Jane.
Yeah, I find the PIAC website very helpful. I've used it a lot.
Great.
With setting up things for meetings, knowing what processes I should be following. Even the conference earlier on, like in was it September, the town hall was really helpful. Like I had no idea what our bylaws are. Like I'm looking forward to getting that package,
the template.
Yes, 100%, because we haven't worried about them at all. We should, and so that's going to be one of the things we try to take care of this year.
Great. And by all means, reach out to PIAC if you need support with your bylaws. There's lots of people on the committee who have written a lot of bylaws and can support you. Your PIAC rep, your trustee is there as a great support for community building. Use the tools that you got. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we have a PIAC rep in our ward, but
well, then maybe you want to let people know they could run, talk to their trustee in your ward, and get them to participate. There's the list of vacancies in the chat.
Yeah, so I'm Ward 1.
PIAC is a great opportunity for parents to really have impactful at a system level. So you may not have parents on your council specifically that want to do that, but you may have parents in your community who that's what really appeals to them. They want to do something bigger than school council, for example.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
we're Ward 1, so we're the one with the 2 vacant positions.
Yes.
So Jane, just to Trustee Mamalides put his hand up, like Ward 4 is borders on Ward 1, and Ward 4 has 2 fantastic PIAC reps, Sharon Grant and Patricia Cedio, and they are both fabulous resources, and they were Sharon and Patricia both are very willing to work with other wards and other schools. So,
and I'm sure Trustee Mamalidi would give a hand too if he needed to.
Yes, that's right. So, feel free to, write to Trustee Gill or and then she can pass your reach out to Trustee Mamalidi, who can then connect you with PIAC rep Sharon Grant, who I know she's worked with some schools in Ward 1 in the absence of having a PIAC rep in Ward 1.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And make sure you check out the bylaws workshop, because that sounds like that would be handy for you. Go ahead, Trustee Mamalidi.
Jane, I'm just curious why you're not the PIAC rep.
Yeah. I'm interested in keeping my marriage intact.
Fair. And I understand.
Been there, done that.
But yeah, no, please reach out to us. I have a great working relationship with Trustee Gill as well. Any way we can support each other. Our communities are neighboring, so we do our best to work collaboratively. So please reach out at any time if we can help. Okay.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and Trustee Gill has been awesome in the past. I know she's been to our school, especially when French immersion school buses was on the line. She came to our school and talked to the parents, which was very much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'd like to thank Zena for helping me out this weekend with my my chat. can't do these things without a helper. And thanks to PIAC for being a great partner on this. Mental Health and Wellbeing Parent Partnership Committee, which Zena and I also sit on. Certainly a great place for you to recommend to parents who want to participate in a system level. It is a parent committee, so by all means, reach out to us that way too. Lots of things for you to share and engage your families with. And I'm glad that you're focusing on manageable tasks that are priority.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia, for popping in.
Yeah, and honestly, Jane, you know, don't ever feel that what you're doing isn't enough. Okay, because I know that you know, as a chair of a small school, there's always like, it's like social media, right? You're looking and comparing yourself against other schools. But you know, what you're doing is enough because you've stepped up. Okay, you've stepped up.
Yes.
And you're serving. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.